My name is Eliza. I'm 27. I was born in the dusty coal mining town of Coal Creek, Pennsylvania. That place was once a harsh industrial land, but now everything is different. War has redrawn the map and changed the people. I left a long time ago. First, I studied in Pittsburgh, and then I moved to Chicago, where I met Grant. I met Grant in a drugstore. A cliché, but a beautiful one. He was in line buying vitamins for his dog, and I was buying a bandage. I'd rubbed my heel raw with new pumps. We started talking. He seemed polite, confident, and very modern. I was used to a different kind of man, rough, stern, the type who had "don't make a fuss" in their vocabulary. But Grant was different. He knew how to listen. A month after we met, he proposed. I was thrown. We had just started, but his words were sure. I want to see you in my house every evening. In a robe, in stockings, in my arms. Yes, he wasn't entirely ordinary. Even during our engagement, he asked me to dress provocatively, body-hugging dresses, deep necklines, heels. I was embarrassed. All of that used to be considered vulgar. But he would persuade me. You don't have to, you can. Just be yourself. The boldest version of yourself. We got married at a small, remote lodge in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Almost no guests, he insisted. I wore a lacy beige dress with an open back, silk opera gloves, and no bra. Yes, he chose my bridal look himself. Back then, it seemed silly, now I realize it was a rehearsal for my new life. After the wedding, something strange, yet sweetly forbidden, began. He started bringing friends home, Max, Ethan, sometimes Leo. All his colleagues from his tech company. We would sit in the living room in the evenings. I poured them wine, we discussed movies and music, and I always had to be dressed up, in a short silk dress, with red lipstick, in heels. He even bought the outfits himself, wrapped with a bow. I felt awkward, but he would whisper to me in front of the mirror. When you sit next to them, in this lingerie under your dress, you become a muse. Mine, theirs, it doesn't matter. You shine, Eliza. Once I tried to object. What if I don't want to be the center of attention? He walked right up to me, pinned me against the wall, ran his finger down my neck, and quietly said, "Then you'll never know what it feels like to be desired by everyone. I want you to feel it." And I got drawn in. Yes, I started enjoying it. Feeling the stares, flirting without being cheap, seeing Grant's eyes light up when he watched me. A year later, he left for Austin, Texas for work for several months. I won't be around, but you won't be alone. My friends are near. Anything you need, ask them. Don't worry, I gave my approval. I was left alone in our Chicago apartment. At first, it was empty. Then, strange. Max started bringing groceries. Ethan came to fix a leaky faucet. Leo once stopped by with a box of chocolates and the phrase, "Grant said you love chocolate-covered almonds." It all seemed innocent enough, but one day Max suggested, "Want to come with us for the weekend to a private lodge near Lake Superior? Grant doesn't mind." We called him. I was surprised. 1 woman and 3 men, without my husband. But when Grant himself confirmed it on a video call, I agreed. 2 Elizas fought inside me, the old, modest, restrained one, and the new, free, almost defiant one. The second one won. I didn't know where all this was leading. But while packing my suitcase, I chose my most open bodysuit, a sheer nightgown, and my favorite lace-top stockings. Something told me this trip would change everything. We left early in the morning. Max was driving, Ethan was dozing in the front seat, Leo sat next to me in the back, flipping through a playlist on his phone. The drive to the lodge near Lake Superior took 3 hours, but the time flew by. They were all polite, joked, played light jazz, and offered coffee from a thermos. And everything seemed almost normal. The resort was old but cozy. Individual wooden cabins among the pines, near a lake. We were placed in one cottage with 4 bedrooms and a shared living room. I was surprised. It was almost a luxury suite. Grant paid for everything in advance, Leo said, nodding toward the rooms. Pick any one you like. I chose the farthest one with a balcony. I unpacked, took out a light, semi-transparent robe and the creamy lace lingerie that Grant had once given me for our anniversary. So you remember whose you are, he had said back then. In the evening, we went for a walk along the lake. I wore a light dress, a button-down shirt, and platform sandals. It was cool, and I put on a cardigan, but the wind still skillfully lifted the hem. The guys didn't take their eyes off me, especially Maximum. He watched too intently, as if testing how far I was willing to go. We cooked dinner together. I fried fish. Leo cut the salad, Ethan poured homemade wine. Everything was surprisingly domestic, almost like an old group of friends, if not for that slight tension in the air that made my head feel a little dizzy. You look like you stepped off a magazine cover, Ethan said, admiring my dress. Grant chose it, I replied, taking a sip of wine. He has impeccable taste, Leo added. And his hand briefly touched mine. It seemed accidental, but lasted a second longer than it should have. That night, I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Through the thin walls, I could hear someone laughing in the living room. I went out, wearing a short robe and slippers. All 3 were sitting, wrapped in blankets, drinking mulled wine. Can't sleep? Max asked. The wine's fault, I smiled. He moved over, offering the spot next to him. I sat down. My knees inadvertently brushed his. At first, I wanted to move away, but then I didn't. Grant wouldn't have said anything, he knew and allowed all of this anyway. They didn't ask unnecessary questions, didn't flirt openly, just fleeting glances, gestures, proximity. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something new, not frightening, but thrilling. The next morning, they suggested swimming in the lake. The sun is high, it's warm. Let's not miss the chance, Leo winked. But I only have a modest, one-piece swimsuit, I lied. Max laughed. We are not asking for open. Though, if it happens to have a cutout, no one here will object. I went anyway. The swimsuit was black, with a high-cut leg and thin straps. I braided my hair tightly. When I stepped out onto the wooden pier, all 3 were already in the water. Come on, jump in. Ethan yelled. I slowly lowered myself into the water. The coolness instantly rushed over my body. The swimsuit fabric clung to me like a second skin. The water was clear but murky near the bottom. They swam closer. Very close. Leo was the first nearby. His hand dove under mine, as if to support me. He whispered. Don't be afraid. We are here. Max and Ethan were on either side. I felt like I was in a scene from an art film, where the main heroine is surrounded by attention and a subtle, pulsating tension. And no one crossed the line. Everything was within bounds, but at the limit. When I got out of the water, I had goosebumps, and not just from the cold. I knew, just a little bit more, and something would happen. Something that, apparently, I had been prepared for from the very beginning. The third morning began with silence, too meaningful, too heavy. I woke up to the sun breaking through the thin curtains. I was wearing a white cotton nightgown, completely innocent, but so thin it seemed almost invisible. Yet, I didn't change, just went to the kitchen barefoot, with messy hair and a sleepy face. I even wanted someone to see me like that. Only Leo was in the kitchen. He was pouring himself coffee, in a t-shirt and loose sweatpants. "Good morning, Sleeping Beauty," he said, not taking his eyes off the cup. "Where are the others?" I tried to keep my voice even. "Max went for a run in the woods. Ethan is napping in the hammock. We're alone." His gaze slid down my legs, then moved up. I pretended not to notice. He placed the cup in front of me, sat opposite. "You know, you're amazing, Eliza," he said suddenly. "Why?" "Because you can be both a mystery and a revelation. That's rare." I smiled, but everything inside me trembled. It was beautiful. Almost too much. I stood up, turned my back, and felt his gaze between my shoulder blades, like fingers. I slowly went to the shower. There, I stood under the warm water and wondered where that line was, beyond which everything changes. Or maybe we had already crossed it. After lunch, we drove to the lake, to the other side, where there were wooden gazebos and a wild beach. I wore short denim shorts, a loose white shirt tied under my chest, and thin sandals with ties. I left my hair down. Under the shorts, I wore sheer nude pantyhose, slightly shimmering. I suddenly wanted to add a fetish aesthetic, just to see how they would react. They reacted. Max stared for a long time, then came over and buttoned one button on my shirt. "The sun's strong. Don't get burned, doll." He said it playfully, but his voice was dense, enveloping. Leo smiled, as if he knew everything was going according to some invisible plan. And Ethan simply took out a blanket and threw it on the sand. We lay side by side, me between them. Their conversations were light, but their hands sometimes rested too close to my waist. Someone touched my hair, as if by accident. They did it carefully, masterfully. I caught myself thinking that I didn't want to get up. Didn't want to dress more modestly. Didn't want to go back to my old life. Towards evening, Max suggested, "Let's have a photo shoot. The light is beautiful. I have a good camera in the car." "And who is the model?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "What do you think?" I changed into a long, semi-transparent champagne-colored dress, and came out to them barefoot with damp hair. At first, the shots were ordinary, me by the water, me on a rock, me against the pines. Then he said, "And now, maybe we'll try something daring. For example, you sit on the edge of the pier, bite your finger, eyes on the camera. Can you lift the dress a little on your hip?" I did as he asked. I did even more, little by little, millimeter by millimeter. They didn't comment. They just clicked the shutter and breathed too heavily. I returned to the cottage with the feeling that I had shed something more than clothing. In the shower, I washed off not road dust, but the remnants of doubt. For dinner, I came out in a thin, strappy house dress, without underwear. I felt like I had become fragile, like glass, and simultaneously invulnerable. Leo opened the wine. Ethan brought candles. Max brought out the camera again, but didn't turn it on, he just watched. And at that moment, the phone rang. "Grant?" I took the call and went out onto the veranda. "How are you?" "Different," I whispered. "That's good. Are they taking care of you?" "Yes. Even too much." "Then everything is going according to plan," he said. "Tomorrow, someone will deliver something to you." He hung up. I walked into the room, and all three of them were looking at me. As if they already knew that a completely different story would begin tomorrow. The morning was strange. The cottage smelled of coffee and something new. When I went down to the kitchen, Max silently handed me a cup. No jokes, no usual lightness. He didn't even look me in the eyes. Did something happen? I asked. We'll talk later, he curtly dismissed, and retreated to his room. 20 minutes later, a courier appeared at the door. He brought a sealed box with my name on it. I immediately recognized Grant's handwriting. Inside, a silk set, ruby red lingerie, black lace-top stockings, garters, opera gloves, and a mask. The mask was thin, lacy, with a pattern resembling a spider web. Black. It covered only the upper part of my face, but it changed everything. Inside the box was a small card with the inscription: "Tonight is your night. Trust. Ask no questions. Just be." My heart hammered, my fingers trembled. I stood with this set in my hands and felt like the heroine of a play where someone had written the script in advance, and, damn it, he knew me better than I knew myself. In the evening, they said. We'll set the table in the living room. We have a surprise. Just come. I debated for a long time whether to wear it or not. Everything inside me was conflicted. But at some point, I surrendered. I put on the lingerie, stockings, mask, and over it, a sheer black dress from which the shadows of the lace slightly showed. I put my hair up in a high bun, and applied dark red lipstick. I entered the living room on heels, as if stepping into a scene from another world. They fell silent when they saw me. The lights were dimmed, candles were burning. Old, moody vinyl jazz was playing. All three were in dark suits. Not a word about what was happening. Only gazes. Leo stood up and led me to the table. Please sit down, madam. Tonight, you are the mistress of the evening. I sat in the center. Max on the left, Ethan on the right. Leo opposite. Each course was a separate game. First, a glass of wine, then a dessert they fed me from a spoon, taking turns, then gifts. Each handed me something personal: Max, a silk scarf; Ethan, perfume; Leo, a thin book with underlined passages. Every line had a subtext. This is not just an evening, Eliza, Leo said quietly. This is a choice. What kind of choice? To surrender or to run? He said this without touching me, but his voice burned more than if he had run his fingers along my thigh. And Max leaned in and whispered. Everything that happens is consent. No one is rushing you, no one is pressuring you, but if you stay, there will be no turning back. I looked at the three of them and at myself in the mirror behind their backs. A woman in a mask, in the sheerest stockings, in a dress that hid almost nothing. But she wasn't scared. She was ready. I'll stay, I said. They didn't say a word. Only nodded. And that, yes, was louder than any words. The night was strange. Without crudeness. Without physicality. But with such dense energy that lightning seemed to flash in the air. We didn't touch, but I felt their desires hanging over my every movement. As if I had become the center of the universe. And only when I closed my bedroom door, alone, did I feel a tremor, not of fear, but of the realization that I would never be the same. In the morning, I woke up to the sound of a new notification. A message from Grant. You accepted the invitation. The main event will begin soon. Get ready. I didn't know exactly what Grant meant when he wrote, the main event will begin. But I felt the finale was close. Something had to happen. Something that would turn everything upside down. In the morning, the cottage was quiet. No Max, no Ethan, no Leo. Only a note on the table. Dress as you did then, and come to the gazebo by the lake. Don't be late. I chose the same set again. Thin stockings, ruby lingerie, a lace mask. Over it, a soft grey cardigan and a long trench coat. I walked through the pines, and every gust of wind felt like a touch. My heart pounded loudly. When I arrived, the gazebo was lit with lanterns. In the center was a table, and on it, a laptop. Chairs were arranged around it. On the screen was Grant. A live stream. "Hello, Eliza." His voice was hoarse, warm. "You are beautiful." "What is this?" I whispered. "The finale, and the beginning." "Sit down." I sat, crossing my legs. In this outfit, every movement was slow, sensual. I knew he was watching. I felt him breathe. The other three emerged from the darkness, also wearing masks. All in the same aesthetic, as if that evening were continuing. "You have come a long way, Eliza," Grant said. "You've changed. You are now genuine. You are free, and you have a choice." He paused. A photo appeared on the screen. Me on the pier in the sheer dress. Then another. Me in the swimsuit, surrounded by the three men. Next, shots from the bedroom, where I was dancing in my lingerie. All of them taken discreetly. Accurately. Shots where I wasn't acting, but just being myself. "This is not blackmail," he added softly. "This is the moment of truth. You can choose to forget everything. We'll erase it all. Or you can accept yourself, accept us, and become the woman you always were. Without the mask." I was silent. A hot pulse throbbed on my lips. I felt everything around me freeze. They were waiting. He was waiting. The world held its breath. I stood up, took off my trench coat, and placed it on the back of the chair. "I'm not going back. I don't want to be." "Yes? Then you are with us." Grant's voice became almost childlike. "No," I said. "I am alone. I am me. And now, neither you nor they will be the ones who decide." Silence. Max lowered his head. Leo turned away. Ethan clenched his fists. And on the screen, Grant froze. Then, he said, "Are you cutting us out?" "No," I answered. "I thank you for the lesson. For the masks. For the right to take them off." I turned and walked into the darkness. My heels thudded dully against the wood. I didn't know where I was going. But I knew it was my path. Without the game. Without the voyeurism. Without instructions. Behind me, the lantern light faded. The music. The men. The past me. Ahead, the night and a shadow in the depths of the forest. I stopped. Someone was there, someone I didn't know, someone who wasn't part of the game.